Hello everybody, once again, I am Liam Crafton Jr., aka Zorval Chan Less Than Guru. Right here, we got Mars, the Video Cat, and today I'm doing another update. Normally, I started these off as kind of every other week, and then there were lots of weeks that I didn't get to them every other week. And now this is happening after a week. So even though it is in the bi-weekly update video playlist, I just started calling these updates because I do them kind of when new things are happening in the games that I am participating in, as well as things that are just exciting that are going on. So having said that, first thing I want to talk about is Torg. Right now, Torg, the late pledge manager for Pan-Pacifica, is up on Game On Tabletop. So even though it was done through Kickstarter, the pledge manager is done through Game On Tabletop, and you can, even if you didn't make the pledge during the Kickstarter, you can go to Game On Tabletop, put in whatever one of the lowest tier, I guess, is, and you can pick lots of stuff. Basically anything that is not sold out from all of year one. So that is the core box and all the stuff in it. And when I say box, it means you can get the whole box or individual pieces of it. But the whole core game, Delphi missions, the core game, cards, everything like that. Then wave 2, or that was the first wave, wave 2, Living Land, then Nile Empire, Isle, Cyber Papacy, Tharcold, Ruch, and Pan-Pacifica. So it's all out there. Everything for the first year is out there. Anything moving forward is going to start getting from transitioning from year 1 to year 2, and then head out into year 2. So a lot of stuff is still out there. There are a few things that have already sold out, but anything that is available you can buy. So if you need to complete a collection, or if you want to just hit it all in one big bang, you can do that. Again, Game On Tabletop. You go there, you put the whatever the lowest tier, at least the lowest tier is, and then you can add on what you need. Having said that, the transfer from Kickstarter over to the pledge manager, there's a couple of, I guess, kinks. So whatever your base pledge was, so for me, all I wanted was the box that came, called the Severance package. I didn't need the deluxe or anything. I like the normal books, but I get the box that comes with all the stretch goals and everything. That a couple of adventure books, the Delphi mission, Operation Soft Cell, the source book. There is a Gen Con adventure book that they're putting out, a Operations. So all of that is in the Severance package. But during Kickstarter, I also pledged for Torg or Treat, because in the Aurora campaign, that was digital only. It wasn't a physical book. With Pan-Pacifica, they put it on as a physical book, so I wanted the physical book, and I bought it as an add-on on Kickstarter. When it got transferred to Game On Tabletop, it still had me as the Severance package box set with all the goodies inside of that, but it did not give me the Torg or Treat. So I just re-added it, and it calculated the same amount that it was, and now they put on shipping. But that's how the pledge manager will work. So if you had add-ons, you will have kind of a credit, and then you just kind of rebuy that stuff back, and then you should get it. So that's really cool. Really glad that the pledge manager is out. A lot of feedback, grammar corrections, little corrections like say a taunt skill not exactly right, things like that, that hopefully will all get put into the review copy, changed needed as needed, and then we'll get the official final release. And with that, then I will be able to do my Pan-Pacifica review for Torg Eternity here. So that's kind of what's going on with Torg Eternity. We did our second Foundry game, which was really fun with Eternity. We're still, I believe, in Act 1, but we did stuff, and there's been an update with the Torg. So tomorrow, I will be part of the streaming group at Torganized Play. We stream through Roll, Hit, Die. You can watch that on Twitch, and then you can catch those on the same Roll, Hit, Die. You can watch those here on YouTube. And if a lot of times you do Roll, Hit, Die, it just wants to bring up D&D games and stuff like that. What you'll want to do is put like Roll, Hit, Die, When Cosms Collide. That is the current game that we are playing. So that is really fun. I'm having a lot of fun with Torg, both writing. The Kickstarter that came out is fun. No matter what you write, somebody's not going to like something in it. And there are some things that people don't necessarily like or they would prefer had been different in Pan-Pacifica, but for the most part, it is pretty good review. So we're really happy that it turned out the way that it did. A lot of people were afraid, which tends to happen a lot in Torg, is since a lot of the fans are from original Torg, they don't like that much change. And when you bring in change, they get all worried and stuff. And I can understand it. I'm a big, huge fan of original Torg. If I can get my fingers pointed right behind this microphone, that whole shelf there is original Torg. That's all of the books. Some of them, the bindings came out, so that's why over here there are some three-ring binders, because I basically then hole punched them and put them in three-ring binders. But source books from about there to there, from here on, are all the adventure books, and that big one there is all the Infiniverse, which I was able to download off of the West End Game site as they were going through liquidation, and print them all and get that. Luckily I did that because I have gone through so many computers since then, I've lost that file. But I am a huge original Torg fan, and so I understand that being afraid of change, but it's one of those things that sometimes just wait until you get it in your hands to see if the change might not be even better than you thought. And the systems are, while not, and I'm not going to say that they are absolutely compatible, they are not too hard to convert. So if there's something in the original game that is missing or you feel is needed in the later games, it's not too difficult to just transplant that over, especially if it's a subsystem. Torg Eternity tried to get away from the subsystem route of where every source book was kind of its own game, with the same base mechanic. The old original Torg did have those subsystems, and a lot of times you might just be able to transplant those. So that's everything that's going on with Torg. What's happening with the other games? Earthdawn 4th edition. If you watch anything recent since I've been doing it, you know I just keep falling in love more and more and more with Earthdawn 4th edition. A great system. We had a really challenging adventure last Friday. I was very happy with. My character got wrecked. I got totally messed up. I do not like bone things. We have been fighting on and off quite a few undead, and they tend to either be nasty or extremely nasty. And the last two that I fought were ones that just seemed like a pile of bones, or one seemed like a pile of bones. I went and touched it, and it became a huge bone monster. Wrecked me until the rest of the party could get there, because I was kind of doing an advanced scout type activity, being a small windling, easier for me to hide. And then this last one, we were exploring a Stonehenge type construction, and me and the dwarf elementalist were kind of getting closer and closer to the center and figuring out stuff, and we were being very, very cautious. But I finally, I guess I went into a bone circle, and the bone spirit came up and just exploded and wrecked my butt, knocked me down. But that's kind of my purpose. My purpose as a weaponsmith is to take those hits. If it would have been anyone else except for the troll warrior, they would have very well been unconscious or dead. I just survived not getting knocked unconscious. I wasn't near death, but I survived not getting knocked unconscious because of a avoid blow death charm. If it would have been anybody else, even with the avoid blow, they would have got knocked unconscious and or died. And so that's my job, to keep the other people safe. And even though there is a big warrior troll in the party, if he would have taken that much, he would have been pretty hurt, and instead of attacking would have probably had to do some fire blood and things like that. So that's what I did. I was knocked down, did some fire blood, or elementalist threw a spear. It's a watery spear that heals at me, healed me up, and then I was able to off tank. That's kind of my job in the group. So very happy with that, how things worked out. Even though we were trying to be smart and advancing a little at a time, we don't have any nethermancers in the party. We have three mages. One has just become an illusionist, and the other two are elementalists. So those are our party members. We did get to a illusionist tower that's something like 5 to 10 stories tall, and we are working our ways through that. It is a hodgepodge of traps that are magical, mystical, mundane, just all types of stuff. I ended up getting a spell cast on me, something that makes your one of the classic high fantasy or fantasy games where your hand starts hitting yourself. So I spent like 25 rounds, because again, of course, dice explode on me, and spent like 25 rounds hitting myself. Luckily, I can take it. I am a very, very hardy windling, which might sound funny, but I'm a weaponsmith, and I have crafted myself some really good armor. So didn't basically barely hurt myself. I think I exploded once and kind of hurt, but most of the time it was nothing. Again, better me hitting myself than other people hitting themselves with a lot less armor rating and or what they call it, physical armor and physical defense. So physical defense to hit and physical armor to do damage. So I am extremely happy that very close to the beginning I actually died, and I've talked about this. I died. I was trying to be the windling that I've played in the past, which was not really worry about armor because I didn't want to lower my initiative, and I ran forward, and that's going to be why I'm bringing this up, is because that's going to be my next topic, running forward. My character would start off with a high dexterity, have a high initiative, ran forward into an ogre mage, and got killed before the rest of the party could go there. After that, I made the decision that I would wear plate mail or plate armor. I would forge myself some plate armor that I as a windling could wear. I did it not knowing that the magical forge I was doing would actually turn it into a threat item. That was not something I expected, not something that I talked to the game master about. The game master just knew what the background of that forge was, and it did have some penalties while forging. It's basically I'm like a mage using raw magic, which if any of you know Earthdawn 4th edition magic users, you know how bad that can be, and I age while doing it. It speeds up the process, but it speeds me up as well. But the thing is I made the choice in character and out of character that the path that I was going would be that strong defense, not just the offense. At the time, we had a troll swordsman, a windling cavalryman, which gets to add their mounts strength to damage as they can charge, and it stacks a bunch of damages together. And we had the troll warrior. Me trying to be a warrior frontline combatant, as in striking, was not good. I chose to then flip it and become defensive and have done much better, so very good with that. that choice. So sometimes, again, in games that you play, you might need to change how your character does things. I had to do it. I played first edition Earthdawn. I played second edition Earthdawn. I also have mentioned that here that I was also a Windling weaponsmith, but I was focused on the weapons, and the warriors we had in the party weren't many warriors. We had a dwarf warrior, and that was it. We had an elf air sailor, and I was the Windling weaponsmith, so I kind of had to be that person who could help hit. In this game that we're doing now, I'm not needed for that role because there are other people that take the offensive role. So switching defensive, very happy. Love Earthdawn 4th edition. Okay, now let's get to where I want to talk about the charging forward. Palladium, you will get to watch this. I hope I started a bit late because we were doing a little bookkeeping, and during the bookkeeping, or during the beginning, and I don't know if this was recorded or not, but I hope it was, I expressly told the party basically that there would be very high risk in the plot line that certain characters were going for. Right now, there's a couple of plot lines that can happen. If everybody is present for the game, we will do the Thunderspire plot line. If not everybody is there for the game, we will do part of Gardmore Abbey. Those are broken up into little encounters, so it's a lot easier to do an encounter or two, go back to the town, go back, do an encounter or two, and progress that way. Whereas the Thunderspire one, they're in a dungeon, they're going through a test, they can't get out, and it's going to be until they finish or die. And I did bring that up. I said, look, remember a year ago when you all started, and we were playing Palladium for the first time in decades, and you were used to easy combat like Pathfinder or D&D 4th edition, 5th edition, Torg, where it's combat as sport. This is going to be like your early Palladium, where you were trying to figure out why you were getting hurt, because you were in that mindset, even though we all knew we were going for an old school feel of combat is battle. The party includes, and even though this is out of character stuff and not really that we talk about, and I've talked in my Palladium game, I wanted it to be less number crunching and saying, oh, you're a this, you need to do this, but just have people role play their characters. So all the roles are game master only. They only come to me. So the person who rolls them knows what's rolled. The player, and then I as the game master knows. And they don't necessarily even know each other's occupations or things like that. That was one of the purposes of the game. So they have one 4th level character, one 3rd level character, one 2nd level character, and 3 1st level characters. And they all know that that's about what they are. They know that 3 of the character or 4 of the characters are brand new. One just played an adventure more, or a session more, so it has a little more experience points, because that's another thing. Not everybody has the same experience points. Then one of them is one of the original characters, so anybody, most except for one person, has one of the original characters as all around 4th level, so they at least would know that he's somewhere around 4th level. And then another character that came in with some advanced experience. That's when I was still trying to figure out, do I want to start new characters off with nothing or half or something, and I made a deal with the player to play another character, and any XP that character would earn would transfer to his current character. So that's a 3rd level. So everybody knows the one's around 4, the other one's not that much, but everybody else is pretty much new. They went into it as a charging forward, and they got to a point where they were doing pretty good, and then it happens in any game. It can happen even in the big heroic games like D&D 5th, where somebody just rolls really good, somebody rolls really bad, and a character ends up unconscious or almost dead or very few hit points. And in Palladium, it's not a short rest and roll some hit dice or healing surges to get hit points back. It's a, oh, I'm really hurt. And one of the characters was knocked unconscious, got a permanent injury, because permanent injuries are a thing in Palladium, and I've transferred that over. I want to make the players feel that even if they... to even fear going unconscious. So yes, fear death. Death can happen, but even fear the unconsciousness. I don't like the D&D modern where you just bounce back up. You get healed, you bounce up. You go down, you bounce back up. And whether there was negative hit points like in 4th edition, or you just go down to 0 and you don't go negative all in 5th edition, I just did not want that mentality. So one of the characters goes unconscious, is healed, brought back to consciousness, has a permanent injury, and there was a surprise that happened that was pretty cool. It happened when I wanted it. I wanted it mainly to be a, oh no, and then people think it was very, very going to be something very difficult, and it wasn't too difficult, and that's exactly how it went. But then they go through a door, and they see some bad guys at the far end of, or some of them do, because again, now they're in a dungeon. Only half of the party has night vision. The other ones are relying on people with torches or globe of daylights. So that's another thing that I wanted to stress, is not everybody can see what you do. One of the people that saw and was hurt, who saw saw some enemies up ahead, the corridor, just charged, ran for it. No thought whatsoever. And then the person who just had a few hit points that had just gotten back from unconsciousness ran after him, and they got downed. And one of the characters was really, the rest of the characters were like, come back, come back, come back. We are going to die if you don't come back. And one of the mage, the one spellcaster, wanted to actually was trying to choose, do I cast a wall of ice to separate those smart ones from the ones who charge forward and are going to get slaughtered, or do I do one between a couple of enemies? And chose to do between a couple enemies, but had to move forward to do that. So once the two people that charged into battle were downed, then the foes, the threats, came forward and knocked him unconscious, and now they're up at the bard of the party, and the bard of Palladium do not have magical abilities. They're entertainers in Palladium, so they're not like D&D bards that can cast spells or anything like that. Luckily, after his last adventure, he did get some chain armor, so has a decent amount of defense, but he doesn't have an active dodge, he doesn't have, or auto dodge, he doesn't have an automatic parry. So it's depending, we kind of stopped at that point, depending on who rolls for initiative, what the order is. He might get taken out too, and he's on the other side of a door, which other characters are wanting to close. Luckily, the one thing that might keep it from a TPK, and normally it has become a trope so much in a lot of modern games who don't like the idea of TPKs. Which is not to say that I like TPKs. If the players are smart, there shouldn't be TPKs. If they do things like they did in this adventure, then there should absolutely be a TPK. The rogue did not scout ahead stealthily. They did not put the people with night vision, and while they did have some torches and stuff, not everybody knew what was going on. The rogue has night vision. The rogue should have went forward, or something along these lines. Go forward, figure out what's going on, come back, tell the rest of the party, and figure out what to do from there. It could have led to very few deaths or hurts or knocked unconsciousness instead of just charging forward. But the area that they are in, the people that they are, or the things that they're fighting, hyenas, basically gnolls from Dungeons and Dragons, those that they are fighting want sacrifices. So if they're captured, they're not going to be killed. If this was in any other situation, they would just have to own up to making stupid decisions and having consequences. But in this case, they do want to have sacrifices. So if the 3 remaining out of 6, 3 are unconscious now, if those remaining 2 or 3, because the bard very much could go down within the next round, they might be able to salvage the situation and bring those unconscious people back to health. So that's basically what I want to say. Don't always charge into battle, and it's certain mentality of playing so much Pathfinder 5th edition, where it's combat as sport. So if you're going to charge into battle, you're probably going to win. In this game, it's combat as battle. It's not combat as sport. The creatures that they're going against are like 5th to 8th level, depending on which one and how far into the dungeon. And that is on purpose. I'm not making encounters specifically to certain levels. I'm not making it to the group level. The encounter is in the world at this level. If they went into it and they would have taken all their 4th level characters, then they would have a much better chance. If they would have waited a long time and then decided to go on the Thunderspire plotline, then all of those things would be there at the same level, and they would have been at a higher level. That's not to say that they're automatically going to die because they had 6 people, most of them 1st, 2nd level, and 2 3rd, and they're going up against these much higher foes because they've already taken out a big thing in a well, like a tentacle monster from a well. They took a couple of chokers down. They took a zombie down. They took a few hyenas down that were with the hyenids in my game, gnolls, and it wasn't too difficult for them to take some gnolls down if they would have had proper tactics. So basically, that's what I want to say. That if you're playing combat as battle and not combat as sport, you really have to think about charging into battle because you don't know what you're up against. And I warned them at the very beginning. I expressly told them, hey, this is going to be a very difficult challenge. I didn't necessarily want to use the word like TPK or you're going to die, but I did say there is a lot of risk in this. It's like when you're playing when everybody was 1st level and you're going up against like those 3rd level threats and having a difficult time. They didn't heed me. Later on, I talked with some people that sent messages and said, they told me, yes, Lehman, you expressly told us no uncertainty that this was going to be a difficult, challenging plot line. So sometimes, I guess, characters got to die or get knocked unconscious to knock some sense into people. So having said that, I'll go ahead and wrap up. That's what's been going on with me. Again, if you're interested in Torg whatsoever, Game On, Tabletop, Late Pledge Manager is there. You can pick up anything that has a backstock all the way from the beginning of Torg Eternity to now. Catch us on Twitch tomorrow on Roll Hit Die when Cosms Collide. Watch the videos after they post. Earthdawn 4th edition is moving ahead. Very, very happy with that. And Palladium, I'm really liking my mix-up of D&D 4th edition adventures with Palladium 1st edition rewrite. There's some cool magic items and stuff that they can find in this adventure. It's just, even after a year of playing an old school game, some people are not figuring out that they can't just rush into battle. It's not D&D 5th edition. It's not D&D 4th edition. It's not Pathfinder 1st edition. It's dark. It's gritty. You're going to go unconscious. You're going to get permanent injuries. You're going to die. And there's no easy resurrections or things like that in the game. So, having said that, once again, I am Lehman Crafton Jr., a.k.a. Zorval Chan Less Than Guru. And until next time, I will catch you later.